and welcome to the Open Era Podcast. My name is Devang and Simon. I'm joined, as always, by Mr. Simon Bushell. Bush, it's clay season, and I'm a bit surprised to say I welcome the sight of that marvelous dirt. It felt good to watch clay court tennis, I think mostly because the weather is getting less shitty where we live.
Feels like springtime, doesn't it? Especially in tennis. We are fully into the springtime and getting into the summertime for the outdoors, the clay court, and soon will be the grass. This is the best time of the season. I love it. It's a good time of year to be a tennis fan.
It is. Now, a couple days ago, we were talking about this episode, and I will admit, I fully expected us to be talking about Sinner Djokovic today, but we are not. We are talking about Stefanos Tsitsipas back from the dead. Although, should we be surprised because he really likes this tournament? But let's start with Steph, Bush. A lot of injuries, obviously, the last couple of years, shoulder stuff, back stuff, which is not ideal if you're a tennis player. But I don't think I was alone in saying I did not expect to see Stefanos really be competitive in the sense of being in the mix for the really big titles in 2024. I didn't see that coming. And yet, here we are again on clay, and he looked really good. What did you make of his week?
I think I made of it that he is an exceptional clay court player and one who really loves this tournament. He's obviously got a phenomenal record now at Monte Carlo, a three-time champion. It's his home tournament, if you want to use that language here. One thing I think that's also interesting as well about him is that he has really had a surprisingly good year. He has 17 match wins on the season. He's in the top 10 of match wins on the ATP Tour. I think so much has been written about him falling out of the top 10 and that single-handed backhand, the only single-handed backhand player falling out of the top 10 to be replaced by someone else. But he's had a pretty good season all in all. It's just he's been lacking at the back end of tournaments. And all that being said, I think he's good money for this title. He obviously is very well suited to the surface. And I messaged you during the course of the week. Like, this is clearly his best surface and clearly his best opportunity to win a Grand Slam now is on the clay course.
Yeah, it's not close, is it? Either. Like, I think this matchup, this exact same matchup a few weeks ago in Los Cabos, Casper Ruud took it in straight sets, and I don't think anyone was that surprised by that, which I think tells you something of where we measure Stefanos' ability on the hard courts, I guess. I mean, I think Denis Shapovalov beat him in Miami as well, right? So I think that's kind of why I kind of put him away. I tucked him away during that hard court swing, but now he's back and he's definitely in the conversation. He beat some pretty damn good players on the surface, Bush, as well. Like I just running through this list of people: Laszlo Djere to start, Echeverry, Zverev, Khachanov, Sinner, who we'll talk about, and then Ruud. That's not easy. That's not an easy run. It's also early, so like I think it's hard to say what's going to happen in the next few weeks based on what happens in Monte Carlo, because I think people are using it for different things. But this is not a bad thing. He's definitely looking like he could be a consistent force on clay.
Yeah, I think if you were going to circle a surprise, is it even a surprise to say this, that this could potentially be the French Open final, these two, out of all of the possibilities that you could have going into that tournament? I think there's a very big question mark about who is the favorite going into it. I think Jannik Sinner probably takes that mark. Maybe Novak Djokovic. It's kind of a bit up in the air, isn't it? Considering that there is no clear-cut favorite. And if there is going to be a year where you're going to have someone make a breakthrough and win the French Open that isn't named one of three players over the last 40 years or whatever stupid number we're at this point, does feel like Steph's time. He's been very deep, of course. I mean, you can't get any deeper than he's ran at the French Open. I don't know, dude. Like, all of his weaknesses get sort of flattened out a little bit on this surface. His return of serve is excellent. He's obviously physically imposing, and the way that players like to try and kick the ball up on the backhand side to single-handers doesn't affect him in the same way on a clay court. He's able to use his strength. He's able to stand inside of the baseline, use all of that height that he has. He's good value for this tournament. He beat some really, really good players. I'm excited to see what he does. I really am.
Agreed. I enjoyed Nick Lester and Gilles Mueller on the call. Gilles Mueller, I think he's good at this, Bush. I don't know how much you've heard of him, the Luxembourg legend, but player we know well on the court. I thought he offered some good insight and sort of talking about Casper Ruud needing to win a big title, but also talking about his game and what's changed. Because I think he's upped his level as well after I've been on the record saying I did not like it at all. And then I thought in Breakpoint it didn't come across well. I think I'm turning a bit on him. Bush, the backhand looked a lot better than we had seen. I thought it was an excellent week for him in terms of everything else but the final. I think beating Novak, even this version of Novak, was a huge mental thing for him to believe he actually belonged. And I think that even if he did lose the final, it means it's a huge week for him.
Absolutely. He's a really, really good player. Devi's fully deserving his top 10 status, all this kind of stuff. Just always the bridesmaid, never the bride in a lot of ways. It's sad as it is to say. I don't know, like is this going to be the year? Like he's going to run deep in so many French Opens that eventually one is he's gonna get over the line in one of these. He's accidentally gonna win a French Open by getting to the final so many times. Maybe this, I don't know. I got a weird feeling about this one that come, end of May, we're gonna have a very strange maybe French Open winner. It doesn't seem like it's gonna be a normal one.
Well, let's get to the other guys then, because I said I thought I was gonna be Novak. Sinner looked hurt against Steph. He also was we talk about the line calling, but like clearly a terrible call in that third set that, probably impacted things. But the injury, I think, is the bigger issue. You didn't look 100% before this as well, Bush. Alcaraz is missing Barcelona. It's interesting. I mean, Novak never wanted to. I don't think Novak's looking at Monte Carlo as like, this is the thing I need to win to get ready for the French and Olympics. Like he's just getting going, and he was talking about getting his level up there, but I feel like we might have said this before, but it does really mean something if Nadal is really this touch and go, that there is no like true favorite for the first time in a really long time at this tournament. Because of those people I just mentioned, like Sinner, Alcaraz, Djokovic, legitimate questions about all of them after this week. And not because of just their play. I think there's some other stuff that we're worried about.
Yeah, I mean, all of those guys that you mentioned, injured in one way or another, old or falling apart.
DNP.
Whatever description you want to write about them.
For Novak Djokovic, yeah.
Or DNP, open brackets, all ours, hot us, close brackets.
Even Rafa's message being like, hey guys, I might play in Barcelona if I feel good, but also I'm really sorry if I can't. It's bad, man. It feels bad.
Someone just needs to have a word with him at this point. It's okay, dude. You've done enough. You don't need to do any more.
We still love you, Doc. We still love you.
Go evade taxes somewhere else at this point. Go and enjoy your millions. Allegedly, sorry, I should say. One thing on the Sinner point, just briefly touching on him. So yeah, obviously a little injured. Also, he did have a really interesting quote about it as well, following the, as you mentioned, the truly egregious line call that went against him. But he was quoted on this, and I thought it was interesting, basically saying that he got a little bit ruffled, I think is what he was saying. He was basically like, he didn't deal with the stress of the situation particularly well, is that he sort of was alluding to the fact that, yes, he wasn't feeling 100% physically, but also mentally he kind of lost it a little bit, is that the moment sort of got the better of him. And it is a reminder that these dudes are human, and even despite someone who has played 27 matches and has the resume that Jannik Sinner does in 2024, he still admitted to feeling the pressure a little bit, Dev. And I think that's somewhat surprising, but also there is a human being behind that robot exterior.
I thought that match against Tsitsipas was fascinating. Like it seemed like Tsitsipas is someone who gives him problems, not necessarily on this surface, but I thought it was fascinating to see him kind of learning in real time what it took to win on this surface and win against Steph in this situation. But yeah, the third set was strange and didn't come through there. Yeah, I don't know. I have a few more questions about Novak maybe coming out of this than maybe Jannik. Because I mean, for Sinner, it's like, can he get his body right? This is a lot of tennis, a lot of like things that perhaps he's experienced before, but maybe not with the expectations that come with it. So I expect some blips. This necessarily was not a tournament he needed to win either. But to go back to Novak, I mean, he lost to Casper Ruud. Casper Ruud is playing well, but it's Casper Ruud. I don't know. I feel feels off when Novak loses matches like this. You know what I mean? Even though it is the beginning of the clay season and he's going to pace himself. No titles yet this year. I'm reading a little bit into this. I think that's fair to say.
I think it is fair to say. I do also accept the point that Josh made in the Discord server to us, which is that Novak Djokovic isn't very good in Monte Carlo. Some of the losses that he has had across the years are eyebrow raising for the rest of the season, but not necessarily for this tournament, just given it's not exactly a murderer's row of people that he's lost to in Monte Carlo. So you can add Casper Ruud to that list. Casper Ruud is an exceptional clay court player.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think this is one that I would chalk up to eyebrow raising that Novak Djokovic has lost this season. I think perhaps you could make the case somewhat the manner of it is that if you watched him on court, assessed the body language and sort of assessed overall what kind of shots he was going for, there's not the same level of consistency at all. And he just looks tired and old in a way that I don't really remember this dude looking like. So maybe that's me reading far too much into it, but also at the same time, he doesn't look like the same dude. He really doesn't.
No, well, a couple of things. So like, I don't know if you saw the clip. I think Luke posted in the Discord, but Novak telling someone in the crowd to shut the fuck up. Again, endearing to me. I'm like, you know what? More people probably do need to shut the fuck up at a public sporting event like that. But the way he did it, I was like, oh, wow. Okay. Like, not super great. And it also seems like he's posting himself on social media now, which I think these are signs, Simon. I think there's a legitimate signs that he's like, I'm too old for this shit. I'm not going to let other people speak for me. I'm done doing the like publicity tour of I'm the good guy. Like, I think he's over that, which is good because I think it was awkward for everyone. But I think the most fascinating player for me over the next few weeks is him, to be honest, because I think anyone else can probably make their claim to be the favorite at the French Open, and I'd be like, sure. Like even Alcaraz, I'm like, yeah, you'll be fit, sure, maybe, but you never know at a slam. If Novak gets right, I fully believe he could win. I think he's the only player like that. That being said, I'm going to be fascinated to watch him because you're right. Something does feel a bit different, and he's old. Let's not beat around the bush here. The game is changing. How big is his motivation? His coaching staff is changing. Yeah, I think that is the biggest question for me going forward the next few weeks.
I was curious on this one just to go and examine some of his data. So using some of the statistics to see if there's any patterns or models that you can see for why his 2024 season has been a bit middling. Nothing really stands out, it has to be said. These overall metrics that define how good of a tennis player are basically the same as they have been. They are down a fraction across the board. And maybe that's the only significant data point in this, which is he is statistically worse at just about everything, but only by a hair over the last 10 years. And maybe that is just enough at this level that he needed to be perfect in all of those things. And to lose a percentage point on first serve percentage is enough to go from a guy who's undefeated in a season to having 4 losses at this stage of the year. I don't know, Dev, it does show the fine margins, but there's a lot of noise in that data, and I don't think it's particularly useful to analyze in some ways.
I'm with you. And I was just looking at the Clay ELO rankings, and I think Carlos is still topping those, but there's a group there. It's like Novak, Sinner, Zverev, Tsitsipas is second. Fascinating. Let's talk about the line call stuff. Talk about Holger Rune as well. Actually, maybe we'll do a bit more Rune after the break on parting shots. But listen, Jannik Sinner talked about the line calls. We talked about some of the calls that went down during his matches. This was talked about on our Discord as well. As much as it is funny to see the person get off the chair and go check a mark, who God knows if it's the right mark or what they're circling. Let's get with the times here, folks. What are we doing? What are we doing here? Let's start using technology for real.
I thought we were past this, Dev. I really thought. I didn't. Who's asking for this? That's the one thing that I want to know on this. Who is desperate to go back
to real? Yeah, I don't know. It's just for me now. It's just it's the bullshitting of the umpires circling stuff that they probably do know, but the times they don't really are glaring because we're watching on TV and like it's clear what has happened. That let's stop embarrassing everyone involved and just yeah. So that was the discourse I thought far more than I was expecting this early in the clay season. I was waiting for it to boil a bit before we really got into it. But yeah, that was dumb, and we should probably stop doing this.
You can add Danny Medvedev to that list as well. I don't know how he managed to escape without honestly being defaulted in the game where he launched his racket against the back wall. It wasn't a particularly good look. And we've seen players defaulted for lesser things. Obviously, it didn't strike anyone, didn't make contact with it, but it wasn't a particularly endearing sort of characterization of who Danny Medvedev is. I mean, obviously hilarious that he got that angry, but at the same time, you don't really want to see that. It's not a real particularly good example to be setting to other people. And it stems from the same thing. It stems from just like this inconsistency throughout the year where you have players who have got so used to the rules in one capacity, like so used to perfection, quote unquote. Obviously, I know it's not perfection, but it's near enough. It's better than the human eye. And then you transfer to go into a clay court season where it's bollocks. It's basically bullshit, where it's a random assortment of people who are obviously very good at what they do, but are not as good as the robots. So I kind of feel a little bit of empathy for the players, but at the same time, also don't act like children.
Exactly. And like I don't know, I agree with you on Med. Like Med lost his mind. A few people lost their mind. Like Novak probably, that you shouldn't be doing that. I understand if you want to, and the person in me who just assumes the type of crowd that is at Monte Carlo, again, they deserve to be yelled at for plenty of things beyond just being a spectator talking on the tennis court. But again, like, I don't know. I thought it was boys behaving badly this week in Monte Carlo. That was the subplot for me that was somewhat interesting, but also, yeah, I think we're beyond this. It's making people look bad. It's also dumb. It definitely impacted some of these matches. Like, I think the other thing is, like, these matches could have gone a different way with the correct calls. So it's a bad look for everyone. Do you have anything else, Bush, on Monte Carlo?
I do feel very confident in saying that if you are a fan who lives in Monte Carlo, who is attending tennis at the Monte Carlo Country Club, you probably should be told to shut the fuck up. I feel pretty confident about that.
The chance that we have a listener from there is small, but it's not impossible. But please, God, tell us if you do, and let us know why. What's going on there? What are you evading? But yeah, I stand by Bush's remarks, and I second them. Anything else tennis-wise before we move on to party shots?
Do you make anything of the fact that so many players use this as their home base during the course of the season? At all? I mean, obviously there's the tax purposes besides it, but like, does it make any difference in terms of this being their quote unquote home tournament?
I think it's interesting the guys who don't, because of so many people who do. Like, I wonder if there's a competitive advantage. Like, people feel they need to be there if their rivals are there. Is it weird if you're not there? I know Felix went there early. Milos went there early. I don't know. I think I wish I could say like staying in your home base, or staying if you're Casper Ruud, staying in Norway, if you're Tommy Paul, staying in Florida, and like they prove it to make it work. I wish I could say, yeah, you know what, you don't have to go there. Like, you don't have to enjoy whatever pluses you get. But I wonder if there is something to be said about the competitive advantages that these people enjoy, which I don't know off the top of my head what they could be, other than like proximity to resources. Right? Like, not to say you don't have those in Florida, but yeah, it's hard to, like, tax thing aside. I feel like the tax thing is a massive part of this as well. But
yeah, all makes sense. In closing, tax the rich.
Tax the rich. Okay, when we come back, parting shots, we'll talk a huge week for Emma Raducanu. Talk Danielle Collins. Talk Hola a Todos ×8. Holger Rune, First the World. And more after the break. Welcome back to the Open Air Podcast. It's time for parting shots. Simon, Emma Raducanu. This is the way you put your name back on the streets after a hiatus, after people were questioning your credentials and whether or not you could even play this damn sport. 2 huge wins to get Great Britain into the Billie Jean King Cup finals. Man, this was really cool, Bush.
It was good. I think this environment suits her incredibly well to have the team around her and supporting her. It was a really good week for British tennis, women's British tennis. And France are a really good team.
Really good.
And they put out a good team against them as well. So I'm pretty stoked, actually. What else can you say? It was just a good week. It was a good week for Raducanu, and it was a good week for British tennis. It doesn't happen very often, so let's enjoy it while we can.
If you can beat Caroline Garcia over 3 sets with Caro representing France, good God, that's a marker down. That ain't easy. Indoor clay, upsetting France, like you said, in France. It's a huge moment. It's a huge moment for her. Let's see what it brings. But once again, this week also proved that the qualifiers for Davis Cup and Billie Jean King Cup remain better than the finals because they actually feel like international tennis events because the fans care a lot because this is a home tie. They're home ties. They exist. I'm not going to pretend. I actually don't want to relitigate the Davis Cup garbage because Gerard Piqué won. He won, damn it. All right. But they really did take something from us with the home ties. Didn't they, Bush? Someone has to take ownership of ruining this.
Someone who will probably be very wealthy for the rest of their lives and managing to just fail upwards to destroy a sport and move on. Seems to be an ongoing theme in the business world at the moment.
I also don't know how they could have kept it make it work, make it profitable. Again, now that they got me, Bush. I was about to say, how could they make it profitable? You see, damn it, because that's what happens. Anyways, shouts to Emma Raducanu. Big time win for her. Iga Swiatek also representing Poland. They're in the finals. Should be a good Billie Jean King Cup finals as well, Simon. Danielle Collins, we talked about her a few weeks ago. We've been off for a bit, but the good times continue to roll in Charleston.
Yeah, she won the tournament. There was a sighting of the dog, which everyone was excited about. I, myself included, although I'm not a particularly big dog person. However, it's always cool to see people's pets make an appearance once they have won titles. I feel like this should be an ongoing theme in tennis, that you should have your pet present in the box, potentially. That's a new part that we should encourage everyone to keep going. What are we in a row now? 13? I think this is match number 13 in a row for Danielle Collins. Goes back to back, Miami and Charleston. This court color is disgusting. It is. Why on earth is there a gray clay court? Can we do better than this? And why is it not blue? That's what I want to know.
I think it's probably just foreshadowing the future of clay court tennis, which involves playing on courts covered in nuclear fallout, right? So I think this is just preparing us for what's next. I agree. I like this tournament a lot, though. And I like when people I like win it. So that makes it extra cool. But yeah, Charleston Open. I had to talk about this on the Discord, just generally about the city. Which I've heard good things once again. But Ons won last year. Remember that. Belinda won the year before that. I love that. So yeah, loving this tournament. Got to get down there at some point. Shouts to Danielle Collins. I don't know how I feel about the people continuing to ask her, like, are you sure you want to retire? Like, are you sure you're going to win stuff? And I think she's answered those questions a lot. But I guess fair enough. If she keeps winning, can we get mad at people asking her to keep playing? We probably still can.
I just wanted to circle some of her opponents in this match winning streak, because I think it's important to highlight the quality of opposition that she's playing. So her wins in a row are Pera, Popatova, and Benzania, Garcia, Alexandrova, Rybakina, Badosa, Jabeur, Stevens, Mertens, Sakari, Katsakina. That's an incredible list of players to do 13 in a row over on 2 different surfaces. This isn't just a purple patch. This is someone in the form of a life. And it's pretty damn cool to see in someone playing in their last season.
Could I just say as well, Stuttgart How the F does Danielle Collins not get a wild card to this event? How are you going to make her go through qualifying? Which I think she refused to do and withdrew, which I don't know why. There could be other reasons, but just shows to Danielle Collins for thinking, what? What? After this? How many Porsches can you throw around without giving a wild card to someone like this who deserves it?
Come on, Dev. We agreed last year that this is now the Brompton Open, did we not? This is no longer.
It's true. That's true. I also was, maybe I'll save this for my 2 challenges remaining. Actually, I will. And it's going to be venomous. But anyways, Porsche, you're on notice. Car company. Okay. Rafa Bush, another Ola Todos post. This one not predicting doom, but felt weird, like I mentioned.
So he's back again. Is he?
Yeah.
Maybe. He's in the draw.
Aren't we all?
At time of recording, he's in the draw. He's supposed to be playing in Barcelona. He's got an opponent. In the opening ceremony of the Barcelona Open, he sounded so unbelievably uncertain that he was going to play in this tournament. It was the most hedging of bets that I've ever heard from a player that he was actually going to be out there. When he's quoted as saying, "I'm happy to be here." It's like,
this was the pull quote they used in the headline.
What does that mean?
This is like the tennis.com headline. I'm happy to be here. It's like, okay. Could have used something stronger. A little bit.
This really feels like the kind of thing that you say when you're going into a meeting that you're like optionally invited to. And you're like sitting at the back room. Oh, like, don't let me stop you, boys. Like, carry on. I'm there if you need me. Just go ahead. If you have any questions, I'm here for you. But yeah, I'm not going to be actively participating. Effectively, now Rafael Nadal is doing that, but now at tennis tournaments.
Bless the people who made those graphics with like the road to the finals and like his projected opponents. They had like De Minaur, second round, fees, third round. I'm like, let's just see if he plays. Let's see if this Kaboli match actually happens again. I really hope it does, but if he does play, wow, like I will be.
Can you imagine Rafael Nadal, given the season that he's had, playing against Alex De Minaur in the second round of Barcelona on clay? Might kill him. He might never walk on a clay court again. His demon's going to make him run around for like 9 hours long. I don't want to see Rafael Nadal put him through pain like that.
No, we don't. But yeah, we got to get Pri on to give us true Rafa fans' thoughts on this, because like a part of me just is very curious. Like I know I don't love him like that, but I have a lot of respect for the guy. Where is he at? Like I want to see him play just to get an idea, but I also don't want to see him be trotted out there and be bludgeoned to death by the Kangaroo King, Alex De Minaur. So yeah, let's see what happens to Rafa. Yeah, if he plays, God, I'm fascinated by this. Okay, Holger Rune versus the ATP Twitter account, Bush.
Yes, so the ATP Tour Twitter account put in, I don't know, the most innocuous Twitter post ever, quoting Jannik Sinner winning a point against Holger Rune. And Rune took to replying, quote, "Meaning what, ATP Tour?" I can't do it in the accent, I won't do it. "Not that you gave me the best conditions in the first place, having to play 2 matches the day before ending late, leaving almost no recovery time, chair umpire making crucial mistakes and giving wrong warnings that disturbed the game. May the force be with you. Jesus Christ." Now, I don't advocate for players to have their handles taken away from them or for PR teams to get involved, but someone take this kid's social media away from him. It doesn't matter that much. This is not going to change anything.
Yeah, not a good look, man. I mean, it's a shitty tweet. First of all, like May the Force, I get it, Star Wars, I get it, ATP Tour. But if anything, the crime is that just being cheesy, not a grand conspiracy, Holger. Again, Josh on the Discord, join our Discord, patreon.com/openair, so you could hear and see Josh's takes in real times because they're worth it. He is definitely going to be in another soon when he's done playing. This kid. I saw his mom vaping in the crowd. I love that. I mean, I could empathize with that. It's beginning to come around. I mean, like the line call stuff, not happy. He's everyone hates him as well in the crowd, which I find interesting. Like it fully happened that nobody likes him. Like the Dimitrov match, I thought I was kind of weird how much he was hated. I don't know, but we're at the tipping point for young Holger. He could be pushed away, never to come back.
I don't think he deserves the level of vitriol that he gets in the crowd. I think he is a pretty shitty kid overall, but I still think he's so young. And he is not. He deserves to be given a little bit more of a chance, given how many terrible things people have done before the age of 21. So I think not everyone is media trained out their ass like Carlos Alcaraz is, and how Yannick Sinner is, but really doesn't particularly make himself lovable. However, I don't know. Does booing the kid like excessively on court really actually make him change his demeanor and make him act any better?
Well, he's on the Novak track, isn't he? Isn't this? He's exactly in the Novak of the three of those guys. If this does actually happen, which it probably won't. It won't. It probably won't. Most likely it won't. But if Sinner, Alcaraz, Rune are the next big three, quote unquote, isn't he so obviously Novak?
Yeah, I think probably, right? Yeah, that seems reasonable.
Nobody likes him right now. His family's kind of like quote unquote off. I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised. The kid's got obviously a lot of game. So yeah, we'll see. Get him. Unlike Novak, who I'm glad is taking over his handles. Get this kid offline. Get us all offline. It's all bad. Okay, Simon. Before 2 challengers remaining, Challengers the movie.
Have you also been served many targeted adverts for this over the last 2 weeks as the
I have
marketing blitz?
I gotta be honest here. Some of these trailers look bad. They don't look good. Am I being too harsh? Am I being too harsh here?
Yes. No, I don't know. I don't know. What I will say on this one is I think it's, by and large, from the very few things that I've read about it so far, has been reviewing okay.
Yeah,
is that it seems like it's doing all right. People seem to be responding to it. I don't think it's got a wide release until next week. Next Friday, maybe it comes out. So we will find the space to go and watch it, or I will find the space. Are you going to go and watch it, Dev, or do I have to take one for the team and go and watch this instead?
No. What we should do is we should actually get an open era film club episode in which we get a few people to watch this, so that my obviously wrong takes aren't presented as the voice of open era, right? I want to avoid that, so we bring on some other people that might have other thoughts. But yeah, let's do it. We'll do a open era Challengers film party.
2 things that I wanted to point out about Challengers before we go into that. Firstly, the music is done by 2-time Oscar winners, Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross, which I think is really exciting. So I'm looking forward to hearing the soundtrack from it. And then the other point that I want to make about Challengers, the film, friend of the show, Jordan Thompson, is in this film.
What?
Which
Tomo?
is pretty cool. Tomo himself.
Oh my God. Okay. Well, I guess I'll camp out for this now. Also, it's a respectful 2 hours and 11 minutes, which to me, if this movie was 2.5 hours, I think I'm out, Bush. I would not sign up for the movie club. So I'm glad.
You think 2 hours and 11 minutes is respectful? Seems...
Even
without seeing the film, that is like 20 minutes too long. I'm going into it with the expectation that this thing is already overwritten.
It's not like they have to fill ads, though. I don't understand why these movies are so long now. What's going on? Okay. 2 challenges remaining. Simon, you've been golf pilled, which is upsetting, but what do you got for us this week?
I mean, I've been kind of golf pilled. I just wanted to give some acknowledgement to Scotty Scheffler, who is probably the most consistent golfer I've seen in a long time. His temperament and his demeanor on a golf course, I think, is remarkable in terms of just continually being so boring. And I say that with the greatest of love to someone like that. That's the hallmark of someone who is a really good golfer, that it's so consistent and metronomic. So that's kind of cool. But more importantly than golf, because, you know, it's golf, as we often say, hashtag it's golf, is, Dev, it's that time of the year. It's that time of the year where you get your heart broken in sport. We are coming up thick and fast to finals times, to playoff times, to back end of tournaments, to back ends of tables being decided. It's a fucking great time of year. It's also heartbreaking and horrible. So enjoy the ride? Question mark.
Man, yeah. Today was bad. I don't. It's funny. Like I don't. I'm taking this stuff harder now, but I'm watching less. I don't even know how to say it. I don't even know how to explain it. I wonder what the Maple Leafs will make me feel this year. Like I really have no expectations at all. But I'll still feel like shit when they lose, right? Like it's really bad. I don't know. I think I've had this talk with myself many times in my life, but what the fuck am I doing? Why does it really impact my life this much? It's crazy.
I was listening to Granit Xhaka, of all people, who was being interviewed after Bayer Leverkusen won the Bundesliga, like their first title in 120 years. Bundesliga champion Granit Xhaka. And he was quoted as saying, like, I love the fact that he's now being touted as this fucking senior citizen of football. Like he's the elder statesman when he's all of 31 years of age, which is really funny. Anyway, what he was saying was he was surrounded by a bunch of players who had never been across the line before. And the point that he was making is effectively like, you are going to get nervous. You are going to make mistakes. You're gonna fall apart a little bit, but that's all part of the process, and you have to accept that. And once you kind of accept that that's going to happen, it allows you to play a bit more freely. And I think that's such an interesting quote, an interesting look at how pressure plays a role in sport, because when we're at this time of year and we start to see just bonkers results out of nowhere, or like teams losing or players losing when they absolutely should not be, it usually goes down to just what pressure does to people. Yeah. And that is such a... I thought the quote that Xhaka made was just a lovely reminder that everyone feels it and everyone makes mistakes. It's fine. It's just how you deal with it and move forward and don't let it get the better of you.
Yeah, it's... Sports, man. Sports. Okay, mine is not sports related. I'm driving more recently, and I'm driving in the suburbs more recently, and I have to say, putting a baby on board sticker on your car doesn't give you the license to drive like a jackass. And I especially mean if you're in a Porsche SUV or an Audi SUV or any sort of high-end SUV with a sticker on board indicating you have a small child in there. We all want to keep them safe, but also don't drive like a jackass. That's all. Shout out to all those SUVs. Oh my God. If BMW, Porsche, Mercedes, it's all just etched in my mind, Simon. Signal, people. Signal. Once
again, this podcast endorses the phrase fuck cars. It's absolutely the case. So,
oh God. Okay. Let's leave it there. Before what a terrible day. Okay. A reminder, we are on patreon.com/open-era, where we're chatting tennis, we're chatting Challengers the movie. There will be a lot of that talk in there as well. So if that interests you, join us monthly. It's for a small fee. You get access to that Discord to get the show ad-free, and you get it early on Sundays when we're recording. Plus, we're on Twitter still at OpenAirPod, tweeting out stuff we like from now to then. For producer Dylan on the ones and twos, and for Simon, thank you so much for listening to Open Era. We'll talk to you next week.